Hey, it's Jeff with ID10T Garage, and we're back on the 71 Torino build. In this episode, we're going to go ahead and finish sealing the car up. We're going to get the kick panels all painted and ready for seam sealer. We're going to then go ahead and remove all our freaking screws from our floor that we previously used to get it ready for welding, and go ahead and weld up those holes. We're going to seam seal the floor as well. Make sure we get it all coated, the firewall, everything needs to be seam sealed after we do all our welding to make sure we don't get any moisture or any holes, kind of get sealed up and everything. On top of that, we're going to go ahead and show you how to put some seats in this car. I'm going to go ahead and make my brackets and everything to make sure that I get some nice bucket seats in here. So that's what we're going to do. Let's get to it.
I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with meaning. I'll do what I love till my heart stops beating. I'm feeding this demon. Got a taste, can't erase bitterness in my face. Work a job every day till your dreams fade away. Like a card, never change, play the game that we say.
Hey everybody, we're back out here. We're about to do some more sealing. So what I'm going to do is basically I've had to replace my kick panels. And I left them bare metal, so it's been sitting there like that for quite some time. So what I'm going to do is basically take my my flap disc to them and get some of that surface rust off there, and then coat them with some Rust-Oleum. I've got a brushable seam sealer I'm going to get. That way I can seal all the welds and everything like that, any excess holes. But I always like to hit it with the Rust-Oleum first, then the seam sealer, then some more Rust-Oleum to protect these metal parts. This is more so for interior and or parts that you're not going to see. You don't want to put Rust-Oleum on anything you're going to paint, because if you're using any kind of good paint, it won't really go over. Your adhesion will be messed up. But that's what we're about to do, so let's get to it. All right, look at there. We got all that coated now. Both sides got coated. Now we just need to seam seal it and put another coat on. So I need to do some more seam sealer on the inside of this cowl, but for the most part it should be mostly seam sealed. Heck yeah, we're getting things sealed up for sure. All right, so we're back to work. We're about to get in here in the floor. We're going to take the seat out, and then we're going to start removing all our sheet metal screws from the flooring. I've been kind of holding back on that, just being lazy, I guess you would say. But we're going to go ahead and remove all the sheet metal screws from there and weld those holes up. Basically, we need to start prepping to get that floor sealed and all the few final details done. So we're going to get to work on that today. So let's go. Would you look at that? That is all the sheet metal screws I removed from the floor. That's a hefty bag of screws. So as you can see, I've got a lot of holes to go in here and now kind of weld back up. So about to get to that. All right, for the most part, we got all these little holes welded up and got all our screws out that we could. A couple of them were welded in, so they're not coming out. But now we just gotta do a little cleanup, get rid of all this dust, and do some rust encapsulator before we seam seal. All right, it's all nasty in there. You see, you got all the bare metal covered with rust encapsulator, so keep that nice and prevent it from rusting out. So next comes seam sealer. Hey everybody, we're back out here about ready to get to some work done. Now I'm still waiting on a bunch of stuff, so what I decided to do today is I've been kind of slacking on this. I need to get my other bucket seat mounted. Now these are, if I remember, it's 08 GT500 seats. So there's some modifications we have to do to make these bucket seats work. Now that's what I'm going to go through with you today. So it's pretty easy. There's some cutting involved and there's some spacers involved and so on, but we're going to get to that. So let's go. So first things first, we're going to look at these GT500 seats. Very nice seats, leather. This is the passenger seat, so we don't have electronics in it, just our normal bar. So the first thing we have to do is we got to cut these bolts off because we got to remove these brackets. We want this flat section here. And once we do that, then we need to cut this part of this bracket off. We just need to clean it up, otherwise it hits the floor. So basically we'll come up here, cut up and cut this even almost, to make sure it's not impacting the way it sits. So that's what we're about to start with. So I'm going to do a little time lapse of just cutting this stuff apart real quick and we'll go from there. All right, so I got that drilled out, and we're gonna have a longer bolt on the inside and a shorter bolt on the outside. This actually might not be long enough, but either way, on the inside we have a bigger area to go through. And what I like to do is I'll go ahead and put this in the car and bolt it down, and then I can work on my back brackets. So I'm gonna bring you over here to the car. So we'll bolt it down here and here, but I need to make my back brackets probably first, just so I can sit them in place. Because what I do is I use 1-inch square tubing, and that is how I basically drill a hole in it, and I put a bolt through it and weld the bolt in, and then we can use that for our back. But by putting it up here and getting everything straightened out the way I want to, I can make sure I get it to where it needs to be, and do some tack welds of those. So I should probably go ahead and cut those pieces and go ahead and make those before I bolt this in. That way I have a little bit of wiggle room to find out where they are. So that's what I'm about to do. All right, so see, here we go. It's kind of hard to see, it's a little blurry, but I've got those bolts welded in there. So we got nice solid welds holding those in place. Now I probably need to put some weld on the top too, but I just wanted to get them in there and get them ready to go. So, but those will be our back brackets for the back of the seats. So we'll weld these into the floor for these seats to just bolt down onto, and that should get it exactly where we want it for these I think it's 05 to 09 GT500 seats. So all right, so now that we got those brackets made, what we do on this front part is we're going to use these 1/4 inch spacers, one and a washer on each side to make sure we're not pushing through our hole. Now technically I should probably weld these here once they're in place, but I don't. Now this is going to be kind of a pain in the ass, simply because on that seat the way the electronics work, the bolt gets held in place by the actual bracket. It slides under it pretty well, and it can hold the bolt in place. Where on the manual seat, it's kind of got a lot of room, so that screw is going to be able to, you know, move all about. So, but what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pull our seat in here, and we're going to get it in place in the front, and then we're going to really figure out where we need to weld these in place for the back. So, about to do that. So as you can see, I've got the front in with the 1/4 inch spacers. I got a pretty even gap right here. And then I've got my back brackets sitting in place on either side. So now I just need to tack weld these in so I know exactly, I get them where I want them. So that's basically what we gotta do next. And like I said, these are kind of a pain in the ass, so I might go ahead and weld this bolt to the bracket to make it easier on myself, because it's just such a pain in the ass trying to get these screwed down when they're always shifting up and down on you. And just like that, there it is. We've got our back brackets welded in place, and then just our spacers and our washers there. Like I said, I went ahead and tacked these bolts in place on the front too. So now our seat can be mounted, no problem. And that's how we get our buckets in. Now, if anybody's got a bench seat, you need to buy one of these brackets from AMD. This is your support for your bucket seats. So I took this and welded it in with my new AMD floor, so you should be able to do that on stock floors too. Now the only thing I can say is these 1/4 inch, you know, spacers, you might need something different depending on how your floor is set up. So with my initial floor, which was patched and welded all together, I had to have 1 inch spacer on one side and a 1/4 inch on the other. So you'll just have to kind of figure it out and get them level. Hey, thanks everybody for tuning into this week's episode. We got some good work done. We got everything we wanted done as far as sealing the car up. We got a couple other things we're going to have to do in the next episode. We're going to have to really focus on some of the particular little things to finish up the interior. I have to go ahead and start a inner and outer wheel well housing patch right in the bottom corners of the passenger side. We'll get to that and make sure that we get everything on that side ready to go. That way we can start focusing on getting everything back in and getting everything put together. I mean, there's just tons and tons of work to do on this thing before we get to the power tour. So like, subscribe, comment, watch some of my other videos, and we'll see you next week.
I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with meaning. I'll do what I love till my heart stops beating. I'm feeding this demon. Got a taste, can't erase bitterness in my face. Work a job every day till your dreams fade away. Like a card, never change, play the